fast-growing faith-based podcast that empowers, inspires, and motivates your walk with Christ. Ladies, don't you know you are fearfully and wonderfully made? You are far more precious than rubies. You are destiny shakers. Fellas, you are strong, visionaries, and mighty kingdom builders. Together, we are Virtue with Vision, the podcast. We discuss relationships, goals, life, and a whole lot of Jesus. Always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Let's tune in to this week's episode. Welcome to Virtue with Vision, the podcast. I'm your host, Mary Lee Vance, here to remind you that you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Hey guys, I am so excited. I believe that this is week 4 of October PODFEST. I told you all at the beginning of the month that I was bringing different people on that have podcasts, and I am so excited for this awesome woman of God that I have on the show this evening. Her name is Takara Barnes of Battle of the Barnes podcast. Say hi to everyone.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a part of the show this evening. So can you just tell everyone a little bit about Takara Barnes?
Yes, I can. So like she said, my name is Takara Barnes. I am from Battle of the Barnes podcast. Just me personally, I'm 30 years old, just moved to Atlanta 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years next month. So I just actually, but daytime, just for me, what I do personally, I just do some lifestyle blogging myself. My podcast is my passion. I've been podcasting for 3 years, and I definitely do enjoy it. Like I was telling Mary a little earlier, it's definitely my hobby. It's definitely my passion. It doesn't feel like work. I enjoy doing it, and I just look forward to what I have in store for me with my podcast.
Awesome. Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about Battle of the Barnes? What is that podcast? And where can people find it?
Okay, so say that again. How can people find it? Yeah, so we're on Spotify. We're on all platforms where you can find podcasts. I just submitted for us to be on Amazon too as well, so that should be coming up. We are of course on Apple. It's crazy how we actually got started. I'll tell you, it's a funny story. So I actually started doing my own little podcast because I was blogging. And I was like, my husband convinced me. He's like, hey, you should start doing your own podcast. But me and him have like a little social media. We have like a little social media following where people just think we're so funny and all the stuff that we talk about. And we always argued on there. And me and him are very, very competitive. We both were college athletes, and we go back and forth and debate every single day about almost everything. So just that's how we got the name of it, Battle of the Barnes, because it's always a battle in our house over every single thing. So like I said, you can find us just on Apple Podcasts, where all podcast platforms are available.
Awesome. So tell me, why do you guys like that competitive spirit? Because sometimes it can be really healthy. Like, it is healthy sometimes in a relationship, in a marriage, to be a little competitive. So why do you guys like to compete against each other?
I think it's just in our nature. Us both being athletes growing up, that's just kind of just what we've always done. We both like sports. We all like the same things. So everything's just a competition with everything. He's always going to hold down his fellas no matter the situation, regardless if they're right or wrong. And that's the same thing I am as far as the women. I'm always going to hold us down 24/7. But when you talk about healthiness, I tell you one thing that we have had to do. We really had to set like a whole lot of boundaries with that whole.
Let's talk about it.
Spirit. Yeah, because so he wants to go back and forth with me every single day. And as I've gotten older, I've told him, like, I don't have the same energy as you do. So we actually do marriage counseling too as well. So in marriage counseling, we had to set those boundaries. Like, hey, I will go back and forth with you on Mondays when we record our show. The rest of the week, I don't have it in me. So that's something that I did have to do, because it did get kind of unhealthy at one time just because it's my energy. I was like, my energy don't have that for you, because you got a whole lot more willpower than I do when it comes to a lot of things. So that's something we did have to do to set
Now, you didn't open up a whole can of worms, Takara. Now we're about to really break it down. So,
period.
A lot of people, they go into these marriages, right? and they're like, oh my gosh, it's the dress, it's the wedding, and I'm married. Oh my God. Because that's a whole different vibe than the wedding. And a lot of people don't know that. Sure. How did you come to the point where you thought that marriage counseling was okay? Because a lot of people in our culture don't think help is proper. They don't think help is needed. But when it comes to certain things that we can't communicate properly to our partner or our spouse, we do need that help. And I try to normalize it here because God wouldn't place marriage counselors on the earth if they weren't needed to be helped in our marriage that God puts us in. So, how did you come to the point where you're like, hey, yo, bro, we need help because I can't meet your energy is not mine right now, and I'm not matching this competitive spirit. How did you do that?
I'll say, so I actually joined when we stayed in Nashville before we moved here. I stayed in Nashville. I actually was in a woman's group called, it was called Wine and Wives. It was just like a woman's group that I was in. And actually, you talk about culture, it was predominantly, Caucasian women. Me and my friend were the only two Black girls in this group. And it's something that I kind of found on Eventbrite. And I just kind of listened to them, how they communicated and how they expressed themselves. And they all talked about what my therapist said this. So I had decided to make the decision to go by myself, and I started telling him about it. And I'm like, hey, we struggle. I've been married for 6 years. I'll be honest with you. I've been married for 6 years. And I feel like for us, marriage really just got good. And we've been marriage counseling. It was a year in March, this past March. And just where we transformed into that, just for us, we just kept bumping heads. Like, I'm the hothead in the marriage.
Believe it. I see it. I think he's more the calm spirit, that I've seen of your husband. He's like the dope, chill, laid back. You're like, I'm the firecracker. What up?
For sure. And but me, I couldn't express myself at all. So as far as I'm the person who, as soon as it gets to a certain level, I don't know where I might go at with you. So I have to immediately remove myself for you because you're getting me to it. My therapist told me that when I get to that level, I get to a place where I don't trust myself. So that's when I would walk away with the situation because I don't know what I'm going to do or what I'm going to say. So really just with moving down here was a transition for us. Just everything was new. We went through 2 job losses in 1 year, as far as with him goes too as well. And just, we struggled with communicating that on how he was feeling. So just telling him when I started going first, I made the initial to go by myself. And I'm like, hey, you really should try it. And then I'll be honest with my job. So my job, I actually got unlimited sessions. I got like 144 sessions a year. So I was like, we definitely going to start going. So we were going aggressively. We was going 2 times a week. So just really just the communication, just because we couldn't really argue, we kept bumping heads, we never really got solutions. So I was like, hey, I read about this, it's helped me individually. I think that's something that we should try.
That's good. And you mentioned something. You said our marriage just barely started now, and we've been together for 6 and you guys have been together for longer than that.
Right.
11 years. So to me, I'm just like, wow, if you guys have been together for this long and people give up so easily, like, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of like the single ladies and they just be throwing these little men's away, and they do. Like, I understand that there's some dudes that ain't right, but you gotta have the discernment to know what's right and what's not. And if you don't, then that's on you. But how do we help women understand that if things go wrong, even if I'm trying to word it right so it doesn't sound like we're just giving out chances and hope to a dead situation, but typically he's a great man. Say, for example, he's a good man. He's a little rough, he's a little immature because men do have to grow. And women do have to grow as well. Some women are immature as well. And we all have backgrounds that have the trajectory of how we treat people, how we talk to people, how we act, and all of that stuff, and expressing how we feel. So how can we help women that I want to be married, I want a husband, I talked to him, he couldn't talk to me back, he had an attitude, so now I don't talk to him anymore. I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, you didn't even, like, you didn't give them space. You were like, I'm gonna let you go because you don't know how a person processes something. So how do you think that we can help single women? Because a lot of times what they don't know in marriage is once you guys are connected, it's like that's like the real challenging part of really figuring each other out, because now you're spiritually connected. Now you have, like, you are in tune with this individual and you feel what they feel. So if someone with a heavy energy, a negative energy, trying to walk up in the room, I'm gonna be like, whoa, bro, what's wrong with you? I'm gonna need you to go outside, try again. I don't know, sleep on it. Like, what can we do to help women understand that just because he has attitude, that don't mean throw him away?
That's a great question. One thing too, and that's one thing I can say when you ask about talking about women, immaturity and stuff like that too as well. I think that one thing I pour into a whole lot of single women. I have a women's empowerment group too called Girl Talk. We have a lot of single women on there, a lot of younger girls, and I always tell them, first of all, you really got to look at yourself. And also too, like, we're always talking about how we want men to change. Like, I read a book called What It's Like to Be Married to Me. And the thing about it is, though, and it's the book is strictly coming at you as the wife, what you're doing. And also too, like, we put a whole lot of weight on men too. I think we don't realize, like, a man is in charge of a whole house. First of all, like, that's a man's whole role, a whole house. So just you really got to look within yourself too, and also to understand that you're gonna have seasons, because there's plenty of seasons in our marriage. Like, I've been with my husband for 11 years. I can tell you on 3 occasions where he's out matured me probably times 10, and then I've out matured him probably less than that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that they just got to realize, and also too, one big thing I always like to tell people, just understand, like, they're not your enemy. They're not your enemy. You both are together to fight the war together. You're fighting the devil every single day. You're fighting people. You're fighting social media. Like, they're not your enemy. They're your partner. And like you said too, like, also too, when you're talking about just throwing them away quick, like, we just got to learn to show grace. Cause I guarantee they probably showing us more grace than what we're showing them.
Cause let me have a whole attitude cause I ain't had no food and I'm hungry. Like, period. I'm hungry. Give me some food. Like, and like you said, men carry the household. There's a lot of things I feel like women don't understand. And that's why I feel like when it comes to them saying, I want a husband, Lord, give me the husband, and they pray for it, but I don't feel like they're truly prepared mentally for it. Like, I tell them in my book, my book, Fleshly Date or Godly Mate, I tell them, I say, pray and ask God to prepare you to be the wife, not asking God for the man to come to you, because you can ask for all of these men to come to you, but if you're not prepared, you won't be a wife.
Period. I think also too, first of all, we go into it. I read another book too. I'm a big reader. I read another book too. I think it was a Gary Chapman book. I think it was 7 seasons of marriage, something like that. It's something, don't get me verbatim on it, but it's something like that. I think that we just don't kind of realize as far as how much we have to be. You're never going to be ready for marriage. You don't know nothing until you get into
a thing.
And that's what the book said too as well. You don't know a thing. And I think that, I think society has put that kind of in our heads that we come as the whole full package, and we have this together. We may have that good job. We may have that A1 credit. We may have this, but you know what I'm saying? A lot of times too, especially, Black women overall, not everybody's case, but we got some generational curses and stuff that we attack into as well that we ain't dealt with yet. Like me, I had daddy issues. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a single parent home. He didn't. You know what I'm saying? So, and me, I was so quick to point the finger. It's you, but no, sis, it was really me. You get what I'm saying? So for me, just like you said, you got to look within, and like you said too as well, y'all just got to realize, like, you got to make sure you just really work on yourself, and it's not always them. You don't know nothing until you get into it.
That's good. Well, talking about books, we're about to go to a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Takara's new book, Quick Hitters. So you are listening to Virtue with Vision, the podcast with me, Mary Lee Vance. Don't just talk it, you gotta rock it too. What am I talking about? Virtue with Vision apparel. Right? My t-shirt line. We not only know we're anointed, but we rock that anointed drip. We should work like Ruth, have discipline like Esther, and pray like Hannah. Why not wear what you believe? An apparel line believes that we not only read the word, teach the word, and speak the word, but we wear the word too. Go to www.virtuewithvision.com and get your drip today. And always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Are you tired of dating the wrong one? Do you keep asking God, where is my Boaz? Are you ready to marry the man of your dreams? Fleshly Date or Godly Mate is the book for you. It gives you insight on the difference of dating with or without God in the middle. And it prepares you for God's best. Always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. You can purchase Fleshly Date or Godly Mate at www.virtuewithvision.com. Do you have a small business you want to advertise to the world? Just getting started with your business and need to get it out to the masses? Are you a known, established, and prosperous business looking for ways to advertise your brand? Virtue with Vision, the podcast, would love to partner with you. From skincare, apparel, insurance, real estate, we welcome all brands and organizations. All serious inquiries, please email virtuewithvision@gmail.com. Again, that's virtuewithvision@gmail.com today. And always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Virtue with Vision is the #1 podcast that empowers, inspires, and motivates your walk with Christ. Go subscribe to this podcast and go tell a friend. If you need something to listen to while you're driving to work or cruising out on the town, this podcast is for you. We laugh, have fun, and get a little more acquainted with God each time. Virtue with Vision, the podcast, is available on all media platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Pandora, plus many more platforms. Subscribe today so you can check out all of my past episodes. Go subscribe now. Welcome back to Virtue with Vision, the podcast. I'm your host, Mary Lee Vance, here to remind you that you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Hey guys, so I have Takara Barnes on the show with me this evening, and she is from the podcast The Battle of the Barnes. Before we took our break, I mentioned that she is now an author. Yeah, welcome to the author club. So can you tell me
Thank you.
a little bit about quick hitters, right? I was saying it right. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me.
Yeah, you are. It's called Quick Hitters, Scriptures, Inspirations, and Affirmations for Life Lessons.
Oh, wow. So tell us a little bit about this book.
So I've been actually Bassy, our mutual friend, that me and Mary have, he actually challenged me last December and was just like, I really think you should write a book, because I'm really big on.
And I hope he heard that too. Margot, let him know.
Always. That's definitely him. He challenged me last year, and because I'm always really big on, I'm the person in the morning who's sending my friends a devotional. I'm the person who's sending that motivational text. And, he's always just telling me, hey, I think you have a book in you. So I took some time off of work in January, like a week, to write it, to finish it, to start it, but I never did. So then I just made up in my mind this past July. I was like, hey, I'm going to get this book out. and I put it out there. It's just basically, it's just different things I talk about as far as just kind of my situation, just how I've grown and all the things I've dealt with the past 2 years, just me dealing with infertility, dealing with struggles in marriage, and just my personal growth. And it just has scriptures at the beginning of it, kind of like a devotional, and it has a workbook to challenge you. It talks about, frenemies, stuff like that we deal with, as far as just young adults. Um, just talking about, just being true to yourself, just in a world of social media, just everybody's trying to be something different, for the most part, a lot of people are, and just being true to yourself and just stuff like that, and just understanding that, God has purpose for you, and just how you can just live your life and just be your authentic self with God, and you don't need anybody else's opinion.
That's good. We're going to touch on some things because I feel like me and you are probably more connected than you actually think. You mentioned a word, infertility. That is probably a sore subject for me right now.
I understand.
And as a woman, it is a little detrimental. It's a little traumatizing to go through all of these steps and measures with the doctor, OBGYN, whatever, gynecologist, same thing, of these different health steps. Like, okay, well, this is not the issue. It's like you're kind of like a puppet that's getting poked to see what is going on. And it is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. How have you been able, and I'm going to answer this too, because for the past month and a half, I've struggled emotionally. Like, I was just like, Jesus, are you real? Or do you play games? Because you're doing a lot.
It'll take you there.
My faith has been challenged. I've been angry. Like, it was so hard for me to be like, oh my gosh, I love Jesus, and now let's do this podcast about Jesus. No.
Right.
Not excited. And I had to literally like have a come to Jesus moment. Like, okay, if this isn't in the plan and I see myself with children, bearing children, no adoption, like I'm not against adoption, anybody that I want my kids to come out of my hoo-ha, period. Okay? On period.
I understand.
So I had to come to the point where I was just like, all right, Jesus, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. I'm irritable. I really don't even like you like that. But I have to trust you somehow. And I really don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. And I just left it at that. And God had to show me that he was still real. He's still there, because I went from the doctor telling me you're going to need 1 to 2 surgeries to not needing any surgeries. Still trying to figure out what the problem is though, but it's still letting me know that, hey, I'm still here with you, and I'm still God, and I still reign, and I still rule, and I still love you, and I am a promise keeper, and I'm a man that I shall not lie. I don't lie. And I try to keep that on the forefront of my mind, because if I let my emotions drive my actions, then I'm going to forget who Jesus is. So, okay. How do you manage that? Like, how were you able to get over that hump of it's not my time, and in his time it will happen, and I trust you, God?
Great question. So for me, the same desire that I had, that I was praying for that child, the same desire that I had, that I'm praying for, God, I want that. I had to have that same energy for him to take that desire away. And I'll tell you why. Because I think that you get to the point where you really allow that to consume you. And I can gladly say now I'm on the other side of that. But I tell you one thing I did do, and I know if you've got there too as well, I actually connected myself with other women who were dealing with what I was dealing with. Reaching out to people. I found a podcast actually for that. It's called Infertility in Me, a lady that I connected with, and I did a live with her, and that helped me gain my power back. But I will tell you a story, the two, I think God is, like you said, we feel so much, and I know, and I'm so happy that you admitted where you was at, where you was questioning God. You know what I'm saying? Because people don't do that. So I love that you
and I'm going to interrupt just a little for a second because I want you to tell me the story. A lot of people don't want to be authentic, open, honest, or transparent because they don't want to be judged. They don't want the approval to be diminished of whatever audience that they have. Me, I don't mind telling you that I am 10 toes deep in with Jesus, but me and Jesus for the past month have not been the tightest homies. No, we haven't. Why? Because I don't understand the positioning he has me in, and I'm not, it's not clicking for me. And sometimes when we are able to admit that out loud, other people can come forth and say, hey, yeah, Mary, hey, Takara, like, yeah, this, it's not for me, sis, either. What's going on? So tell us your story. I'm sorry, I had to do that. You have to be honest. You have to be honest and transparent in order for other people to connect, in order for other people to change, in order for other people to open up, so you can be of that support. You don't know who supports you if you don't open up your mouth. Okay.
I agree. I love what you just said. I'll tell you one story one story, and what always gets you, what used to get me was always the big announcements on social media. You know what I'm saying? That was it for me.
I'll be tired.
One time, okay, you be so annoyed, like, girl, like, so everybody
you on your 10th child today already, like this 10th person I think. Yeah, that was me.
Always.
Was me. I ain't gonna lie.
So one time, it was somebody who was kind of, I know this person, we not really close, like we cool. They had announced theirs. So that was the first time. This happened 2 years ago, and that was the first time I had ever broke down about it and really, really cried about it and really admitted it, to anybody. I called my mom and I talked to my mom about it, and she's telling me, no, your time's coming. It's gonna happen for you.
I don't care about all that. I don't even want to hear.
Right. That's what everybody say. It ain't your time. Everybody says that. So that immediately that next day is when my husband lost his job. So it's like immediately I got in like, okay, God, I see what you're saying, just not right now. Just for me, like you said, you talked about getting over that hump. Like I said, me finding that community and me coming forward and me talking about it. I really had to. I hated the place that it took me to. Last year, I was in the most depression stage over this than I've ever been. I hated my body. I hated the way I looked. I wouldn't take no pictures. I didn't want to go anywhere. I just let myself go, didn't do my hair. And I loved stuff like that. I love to get dressed up. I wouldn't do any of that. I let it rob me from everything. I let it rob me from communication with my husband. I let it rob me from just communicating with people. I let it rob me from so much. I just really just locked in, just got in prayer. I changed up my routine. I upgraded my prayer. So now, my prayer isn't why not, God. Now my prayer is, God, I understand why. You know what I'm saying? So I just let him know that I just have that blind faith, and I just continue to trust him that it's going to happen. And I know that it will. But that took me, like I said, it took me a year to do that. It took me to write a book, you know what I'm saying? The stuff like that, just to get so much work out of there. But for me too, I had to really focus on getting so many small wins because I kept feeling like I was losing. I lost this way. I felt like I couldn't do anything. And I'm a very confident confident woman. I played basketball. I was always goal oriented, always getting stuff done. So I just made it in my mind that I was going to control every single thing that I control. I switched up my food. I went pescatarian, went vegan for a little bit. I could control that. I did all that I could for it. I prayed. I've done all that I could. I've gone to the doctor. I've got my diagnosis. I put that on pause because I wasn't ready. I had to get myself mentally to get to that point where it sounds like where you are, because I wasn't ready for that. I'm going to say, let's just focus on what I can do. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure other things lines up. So for me, it just took a whole lot of time, and you got to give yourself that grace and give yourself that time too as well. And just keep praying and just keep having that faith, you know what I'm saying? And just look at success stories, find you a community, find other people who's went through what you're going through right now. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a whole lot of people out there. It's a whole lot of, one thing, it's a big thing in women of color too, as well. And that's why I made sure I got into that community too, as well, with people who look like me too, as well. So I understand where you at too, as well. Cause I was there. I just had a moment. I had a moment last week. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I don't have my good and bad days, but I really just lock in and just really upgrade my prayer. Like I said, it's not, why not? Now it's okay, God, I understand. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay for it to sting some, and I'm at that point now where I know, hey, it's okay for you to be emotional. You should be, but you can't let it rob you from who you are and rob you from everything, because that, if you stressed out, you can't carry no child anyway.
Because stress creates a whole wide range of other stuff. And my thing is I think I am getting to the point where I understand why I have to wait. It's just that I don't want to. Okay. Like, I want what I want when I want it, but it's just learning. And I think I've had to learn in this time frame that the things that I'm asking God for really don't mix with a baby.
Okay.
Like, it'll mix, after it's accomplished. And it's like,
girl,
because sometimes I feel like God is like, girl, if you don't just shut up, like, just stop talking. Like, dang, I'm doing what you asked. Like, right. And sometimes I feel like that, and other times I'm just irritable. Like, I don't understand, like, why all of these people are around here just doing all kinds of stuff. I was the type of person, and I'm gonna be extremely real, I was just like, okay, she's not even married, Lord. Come on now. Right. Like, hello. Like, she even goes to church, and she knows. Like, she's not even living in the Lord. She's not even married. Right. What's going on, Lord? Why are these people on their 10th child, and I'm struggling with one, and I'm doing your word? I'm living by your word. That was my type of frustration. Like,
and I feel you on that too. Like, and that's where I got to the point too, because I'm that person who always gonna cheer you up. I'm always gonna hold you down. When I got to a point where I was really getting a jealous spirit, that's when I was just like, no, we're gonna stop that right now, because and that's another situation. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm pointing out and you don't know everybody else's story. And that's why I tell myself too, you don't know what that person went through. Because they make it look easy. It look easy. Y'all keep popping them out like, oh, what are y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? It look easy. But when I got to that point too as well, like, I hated that about myself. That was another thing where I had so much self-hate. Like, you so jealous of people, you don't even have an envious spirit. You don't even, you know what I'm saying? You don't even think stuff like that. Like, that's not right either. So that's when that's another thing I had to battle.
And I think a lot of times when we understand and we recognize the spirit, and that's what I had to be like, okay, so are you going to be mad that you ain't got yours? Or are you just going to be happy for the person that actually was able to conceive? My mom said something really important too. She said, you don't really see their backstory. They don't talk about, the struggles. They don't talk about what they had to actually do to produce the child. What timeline, how long they've been trying. Like, they don't talk about that. And that's why I think, and I just throwing ideas out there. I think I'm going to end up creating something to where I am very vulnerable and honest to women that may be struggling, especially women of color, because it's not an easy spot to be in, because it's like you love your husband, we love each other, we do things, we happy, like, like, I'd be like, hey, baby, come on over here, you got a fresh cut, like, it's cute. Yeah. But it's not, I'm just like, and it's like the ovulation kits and like I'll be like, I'm over this. I don't want to do this no more.
I quit doing all that. That's too much. I deleted my apps and stuff too, because you really can stress yourself out. Like, you know what I'm saying? You and like you said, that's like we said earlier, that's another situation. Like, I'm to the point now where I told God I'm gonna focus on what I'm focused on. I'm praying in this area. I know it's gonna come when you say it comes. Like you said earlier, does what I'm, everything you praying for, does that line up with what you're trying to do with the baby right now? So that I had to get to that point too as well. So I feel you 100% on that. Like, girl.
But then it's like one side you have it, the other side you're like, okay, so to be real, Jesus, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. Because, I kind of want a milli right now. And then you can get I don't know. Maybe that's me. I'd be like, okay, I know I'm trying to build this business. I know I'm trying to set my foot. And I know that if a child comes into play, that's going to slow the and if anyone's like me, I'm trying to get out of corporate America forever. I don't want to be in there ever. So I had to take myself aback. And like you said, you have to give yourself grace. That is something I am still learning to do. I still suck at doing because I am goal oriented. When I am determined to do something, it's just me and that thing. Like, I've been trying to build my business, my website. It's been me and my website for the past 2 weeks, building it and everything from scratch. So to me, I'm just like, okay, am I really giving myself enough grace to be like, in his time? Like, am I trying to rush his time when we all know that his timing is perfect? And is me rushing his time telling him that he is imperfect in his timing and my timing caps that? Am I trying to control a God who can't be controllable because he's bigger than everything, bigger than anything that I can think? And sometimes I just sit there and think like, okay, God, I had to repent. Mary had to come to a place where I was like, oh, Jesus, I know I done cussed you out from the windows to the wall, cussed you out. And I'm sorry, Lord. Please forgive me. Forgive your child. Forgive me because, you've been so amazing to me. I've been employed during a whole pandemic. I have clothes on my back. I have a place to lay my head. I'm maintaining my finances. When a lot of people are out there struggling right now.
Exactly. And I got to that point too where you're talking about, right, too, just being grateful for everything, not focusing on where I'm not having, what I not have. Like you said, just being grateful for every single thing, counting those wins. Like I said, counting those wins. That's one thing I'm always going to say. Just count these wins and just not focus so much on, what you have right now. Just focus on building that business, what you have right now, getting that million. You get that million, they say the percentage on, in vitro is high. You know what I'm saying? So, in which he made science. So, you know what I'm saying? Just but focusing on those wins and just not really just being grateful. So I feel you on that too.
That's really good. So you said that as well, that you struggled a little bit. You said that you struggled with daddy issues. And I was just like, oh my gosh, me and Takara can be best friends. So I want to go to our second break. And then I want to talk back about daddy issues. That's third segment. I want to talk about daddy issues and how that plays a factor in your marriage, how you view men, and how you proceed with that healing. Because if you can't see God as a father because of the the absence of your earthly father that you were given, then that is something that God wants you to deal with as well. So we are going to our second break. You are listening to Virtue with Vision, the podcast with me, Mary Lee Vance. Don't just talk it, you gotta rock it too. What am I talking about? Virtue with Vision apparel. That's right, my t-shirt line. We not only know we're anointed, but we rock that anointed drip. We read that we should work like Ruth, have discipline like Esther, and pray like Hannah. Why not wear what you believe? Virtue with Vision apparel line believes that we not only read the word, teach the word, and speak the word, but we wear the word too. Go to www.virtuewithvision.com and get your drip today. And always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Are you tired of dating the wrong one? Do you keep asking God, where is my Boaz? Are you ready to marry the man of your dreams? Fleshly Date or Godly Mate is the book for you. It gives you insight on the difference of dating with or without God in the middle. And it prepares you for God's best. Always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. You can purchase Fleshly Date or Godly Mate at www.virtuewithvision.com. Do you have a small business you want to advertise to the world? Just getting started with your business and need to get it out to the masses? Are you a known, established, and prosperous business looking for ways to advertise your brand? Virtue with Vision, the podcast, would love to partner with you. From skincare, apparel, insurance, real estate, we welcome all brands and organizations. All serious inquiries, please email virtuewithvision@gmail.com. Again, that's virtuewithvision@gmail.com today. And always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Welcome back to Virtue with Vision, the podcast. I'm your host, Mary Lee Vance, here to remind you that you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Hey guys, I have Takara with me and we dive deep. I just like sometimes how God just is like, I know you don't feel like talking about it, but you're going to talk about it today. Did not want to open up about infertility at all, but I'm always obedient to whatever the Lord tells me. And I also want to jump in and talk about, in our last segment, about daddy issues. A lot of women don't address them. A lot of women don't want to admit that they have them. Sometimes I think we as women take independence a little bit too far, because that's, how do I say it? I'm not saying it's not okay to be independent, but we just glorify it and it shouldn't be. So I want to start off with, how were you able to address your daddy issues? How were you able to say, you know what? I don't really like men like that. I don't even really like, my daddy like that. So I don't know if I really like Jesus like that. So how did you bring that all into alignment to address that and heal from it?
I think for me, my situation is so crazy, but something I do want to say, I wrote down really quick, because you talked about what we do when we have daddy issues. Something else that we do that I did, we love to blame having daddy issues on while we not growing as well. That's something we love to do. For me, just being called out. I had to be called out on mine. That's something my husband, like I said, I'm blessed enough to be with my husband since I was 19. Just being called out on just certain things, me and my mom are very, very, very close. I didn't know what it was like to have a man in the house. That within itself, just having to have trust. Just trusting my husband that he had everything, that he was going to take care of everything, that I didn't have to do everything by myself, that, I'm in a two-person household. Just trust from just letting him make mistakes, allowing him to be a man, not having my hands on everything, understand that I can't control everything, and it's not my place to control everything in my home. So just really, that was really it for me, just being called out, him calling out little bitty things that I may have done and just stuff like that, and I didn't like it at the time, but it's something that need to happen. And the fact that I didn't have, I see a man being the authoritative person in the house. You know what I'm saying? The person who does the discipline. That's how I see things. So with me having that issue, I didn't take being called out well. I'm always fight back. You know what I'm saying? You on the same level as me, because I didn't respect really a whole lot as a man in the household because I didn't have one. So just like I said, just having the trust. Really, something I had to pray on too as well, and read.
That's therapy. Good. I think for me, It's not that my dad wasn't present, is that my dad died when I was 12 going on 13. And it was that center stage, like, you know, that middle school going to high school stage, you know, it's a transition. There was a lot of things transitioning in a small amount of time. And I was like, whoa, player, what? So my dad for me was my best friend. So to be without your best friend, like someone that you come home from school and that's who you tell your day about, that's who you hang out with, that's who has, you know, lunch for you and everything, and he talks to you, he disciplines you, he tells you, to go from that and then to go to a single parent where I felt that I didn't, it's not that I didn't talk to my mom, but I wasn't like, my mom was at work. She was getting that bread. Okay. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, hey mom. It was kind of like, oh, good morning, good night. Like, so then the fact when my dad died, and now it's like, I had to try to embrace like my mom, that didn't go too well. Whew. That was a ratchet teenage life. It was ratchet. A ratchet teenage life. And it was a little rough. It was rough for a long time. And I, with the absence of my father in my teenage years, it's kind of like I had to figure it out on my own, how to date, what men I liked. I didn't have an example. Like, it wasn't like, this is the type of man that you should date. Because when my dad was around, I wasn't really worried about guys like that. I mean, they call me boy crazy, but look at here. I wasn't interested like that. Okay. But when I came to high school, I didn't have that guidance. It wasn't an example. It wasn't someone like, man, if this is the standard, and the fact that I didn't have that standard, it made me explore things probably earlier than I should have. And I had to learn how to trust God. It wasn't like, because I grew up in church my whole life. It wasn't like it was just this smooth process, like, okay, God, I trust you. Bing. No, I was like, yeah, who is this God thing that y'all talking about? Yeah, ooh, praise him. Oh, the lady over there, she's out again. Like, you know, it wasn't ever like, oh, Jesus, I love you, Lord. OMG. It was more like, all right, we in church, what up? Like, it was a party to me. It was like, I'm seeing my friends. It wasn't until I was able to come to Georgia to understand that God is really a father. And to know that for the past 10, 11 years, I was absent of that. I didn't know what that was. I didn't feel what that was. I depended on the emotions of other men to comfort me in a space where God should have. And that's what made me a dope fiend for men. Like, I just wanted to talk to them, and I wanted to spend all of the phone time on, like, well, back then in my day, I sound old, we talked on the phone. We didn't text. Text messaging wasn't that real hot, you know, in the 90s and, you know, early 2000s. So I had to come to a point when I came to Georgia to allow God to either heal me or allow God to just chill where he's been at. And I had to forgive my dad because I was angry that he left me. I said, how dare you? Like, why would you leave your daughter? And it caused daddy issues for me. I was just like, I don't trust you. I don't believe you. You a lie. Bye. Right. So how do you reestablish those boundaries in your home now? Like, how do you allow your husband to be the man? Like, that was hard for me because, yes, I am a controller. Right. Yeah. Drake controller. Yeah, that was me. Me. That was hard. That was hard to let that go hard. So how were you able to let it go?
In my case, so me and my dad, we have a great relationship. We're just more like, we're cool. You know what I'm saying? Like we're more. My dad was incarcerated. Probably I'm 30. Probably a total of this last. Yeah, this last time he was actually incarcerated for 8 years, and he got out 2017. So he missed a lot. So he got to see my high school graduation. He missed some of my basketball career. He missed my college graduation. He missed my wedding. So I think for me, the resentment that I had, him not walking me down the aisle was like the biggest resentment that I had. I had to really just I had so much anger. I just had so much anger, like you said too, as well towards him, just for the stuff that he missed. And for me, gaining that back. And you talked about your relationship with men too. I'm gonna talk about that real quick before I answer your question. For me, I feel like your dad should show you game. When a guy's run a game on you, or a guy, I think your dad should show you how a man's supposed to pursue you. So I didn't know how to be pursued by a man. So for me, if you weren't a friendship level with me, I didn't know how to transform into that. I was awkward with guys. You know what I'm saying? I talked to them. I had them. You know what I'm saying? I had them. I was popping. I'll say that I was popping. I had them, but I just didn't know. I was awkward with them. I didn't know how to be a girl. You know what I'm saying? If I can say it that way, just to be honest. But
because like I felt like I gained this type of tomboy-ish type feel to me, to where I was just like, I'm hanging with the dudes, like I'm hanging with the fellas, and that's it. Like, you like me? Sure. That's a little strange.
For sure. I didn't know. I just didn't know how to be pursued. I was the aggressor. Like, I would probably tell you I want to talk to you, but one thing, my husband, we started as friends first, and then it transformed into that. Just for me, where I'm at now, man, just the moment I realized, like we talked about earlier, just a man is in charge of a whole house. When I realized there's so much stuff that I ain't got to do, but my husband proved that to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he proved that he's gonna have my back. He proved, I'm little things like, you don't have to, him bringing the groceries in the house, stuff like that, where you can just sit back. You know what I'm saying? So for me, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Just for me, it was still just that setting back, having mentors. That was a big thing. Having mentors, me asking people if I'm right or wrong in a situation, or just people telling me like, you too hard, like you too aggressive, like chill, like, a woman, you supposed to show love. You know what I'm saying? Not always hate. Baby. So just for me, just really just sitting back and just not being so uptight on everything. Beginning of our marriage, the first 3 years, we struggled so much because I was trying to do too much. I was trying to coach basketball. I was trying to work jobs, staying at my job late. You know what I'm saying? Just not really so focused on my marriage, not focused on giving my husband his attention first.
Knowing that he's
so
first.
I just kind of, right, exactly. So God just kind of convicted me on that. You know what I'm saying? Just, you have to allow him to lead. You have to put him first. You can't, it doesn't matter. You out here chasing your bag. Your bag ain't nothing if you going home lonely. You get what I'm saying? So I just had to be convicted of that. And that's something I just kind of worked on. It took baby steps. I'll give you a best example. Prime example of, when it comes to my husband fixing my car. My daddy's the type person. My daddy when he was out, he paid for everything. He wasn't about to fix nothing. He wasn't finna get his hands dirty on anything. So just with my husband, when it comes to him fixing my car, him changing my oil, I'd be like, I used to be like, you not finna mess my car up, like, bruh, like, you not finna do that. Like, I'm not finna have no car. And now I'm just like, well, if you mess thinking in my head, if you mess my car up, I'm just gonna go ahead and have to get me a new car. It's just a car, I guess.
Whatever so you want to do.
Right. So you just go and have it. So I just had to really take baby steps and just grow. And like, God just kept calling me out, kept exposing me, and just stuff like that too, as well, just little things. So if that answers your question.
It does. You mentioned something and I wanted to touch on it. Oh, what did you say? And
that's why I be having to write it down if it's something quick, because I'd be like, what was it?
Because you touched on a lot, especially like when you're being awkward in front of these men, and then when it comes to your husband. We struggled the first two years of our marriage, and our wonderful, lovely first lady had to get me together quickly. And I was like, I don't appreciate this, because I was just like, what's wrong with him? Well, where do I send him to get fixed? And she was just like, ain't nothing wrong with him. Something wrong with you. And I was like, excuse me, with who? Because it's not me. I, in my first 2 years of marriage, and we're about to reach 4 years in a couple of weeks, I was a pressure person. I was like, okay, so we have goals. What are we doing? Why aren't they reached?
Get out my house.
Why aren't you doing them? Hello?
Get out
it
my
together.
house.
Like, and I was putting so much pressure on my husband to where he was like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, I want this many kids. I want to do this, that. By this age, you need to have X, Y, Z. 1, 2, 3.
The most.
And I know I was stressing my husband out. Like, out. To a point where I was like, this isn't working. Like, this is dumb. This marriage is dumb. Like, I'm tired. I don't want to be. This was our huge grand argument that we would have all the time. I don't want to just be working in corporate America. So if you ain't gonna do it, I'm gonna make it happen on my own. Like, just a lot.
That's the word.
A lot. And marriages don't last that way. And I'm glad that I had accountability. I'm glad that someone got me together. I'm glad that, you know, someone was able to say, Mary, why you so pressed about what he doing? What about you? Can you just focus on you and what you doing and don't worry about him and let the Lord work on him on his own time? I was just like, well, the Lord need to hurry up because I'm tired. I'm tired of working. Like, and it came to a realization of we're put together for a reason. And I understand that he's opposite. I am definitely the goal getter, setter, grabber, let's get her. And he's like, you know, I have goals, but let's just take our time, you know? I mean, if he wants to take his time, he can. I wasn't always like that, though. I was like,
I understand.
Get your life together now. Like, we don't have time to waste.
With you saying that, me and you are the exact same. Like you said, like, I'm telling you, it's crazy. I'm the same way. Like, you know what I'm saying? And one thing I had to realize, people don't work like I do. Like, I wrote my book in a week. People can't do that. You get what I'm saying? So with you saying that too as well, me being that push person, this is what I had to do. So with me being my husband, me being with him so young, we grew up, our foundation was us doing everything together. We learned how to cook together. If we cook, he cuts the vegetables. I do this. We did everything together. Well, we got in a situation where we were so codependent on each other. When I was doing that same thing you doing, putting the pressure, like, okay, I done submitted to you. Where you at now? I need you quick. Where's that? So what I did was I just told myself, you know, I'm going to let him go his own pace. I'm going to do my pace. Focus on me, and I had to separate myself and do things on my own. You get what I'm saying? So write my own book, start my own women's empowerment group. You know what I'm saying? Start my own blog, focus on my own thing, to have my own thing, and that's important too as well. So for me to quit doing that, that's what I had to do. I had to put that energy somewhere else because I was the same way.
And my thing is when you shift the focus, and I'm going to mention this brief little cute story in the Bible about Boaz and Ruth, because a lot of women are like, oh my gosh, where's my Boaz? And he saw Boaz saw Ruth working. Boaz wasn't just trying to be cute.
That part.
He saw Ruth working. He was like, who that over there? So I want to always be that who that over there to my husband. Period. Like, as long as I know that God has placed a vision on the inside of me, and I know God has placed a vision on the inside of him, and in due time, I know God will rule well in my husband's life. But if that is for me to know how I'm wired, is I have goals, I need to accomplish them, I'm gonna be Ruth. I'm gonna Ruth it out until I see something different. That's just what it's gonna be. And
I'm gonna tell you one mistake that I made too, that I had to realize that's good. I want to share. So for me, being that go-getter, me and that person who gets things done quickly, you know, my husband, I would always come at him like, hey, you want to start something, but you ain't finished it, or you ain't finished it. Where's that? But this is something I had to realize. Every single time he told me he had a plan or he wanted to do something, boom, I was the one who jump started it. I would go do this, do that for him, have him set up, and like, why you ain't finished it? But I had to realize, like, you're getting mad at him for something he never started. You started it for him. So now you're upset because he ain't follow through, but he didn't start it. So it's like my husband recently just started his own business. I took my hands completely off of it. If you need me, and he's doing great.
Yeah.
He's exactly where he needs to be because it's his baby. He did it on his own time. I had to just take my hands off it because I was the problem.
It was me. Oh, Jesus, that's good. Okay, y'all, I'm like, we could go like a whole another hour. That was just so good. It was awesome. I thank you so much for being on the show this evening. This was powerful. I like this. It was impactful. I feel like people were engaged. I feel like this has touched the hearts. I cannot wait to see how this episode does with my virtual audience that is excited and they subscribe. So I thank you so much, subscribers that listen to our podcast each week. But before we leave, I love to do this. I absolutely have to pray for those who listen tonight so they can be encouraged. So
I just can I say something really quick on the close?
Can.
Also, too, so people, you guys, I'm very, very, if I said anything tonight that you guys want to know more about or you have questions for me, I'm very, very approachable. You can follow me on Instagram, officially Takara, Facebook, whatever. I'm very approachable. I love meeting new people. I love talking to people. So just feel free to just reach out to me too.
Go follow her. Go follow her today. She is literally dope. Like in person and on video, she's actually the same person. So yeah, you want those kind of people in your life. So God, we just thank you so much for who you are. We thank you so much for being such an amazing God. God, I just lift up those right now that are struggling with infertility. I lift up those women that are in pain, that are suffering silently, God. I pray that you are able to heal their hearts and give them a peace that surpasses all understanding, and that you give them a support group, that you give them someone that can relate to their problem, relate to their issue, that you give them someone that can tend to their needs, so they're able to still be healthy, strong, and be able to wait on your perfect timing. God, I come to you right now and lifting up all marriages that are struggling, all marriages that are like, what's going on? Why we can't get along? Why aren't we communicating? God, I pray that you reveal to them the tools and the resources that they need to help them thrive, oh God. Be it marriage counseling, be it a book, be it a pastor. God, I pray that you give them that resource so they're able to grow and that they're able to stay strong so they can be the authentic, true God's love here on the earth, God. So God, I just thank you so much. I thank you so much for you creating marriage. I thank you so much for our wombs, for women that are able to carry children. I thank you so much for you just being an awesome and a masterful and a mighty and amazing God. There's no one like you in all the earth, and we appreciate you. We praise you. We magnify your name in Jesus' matchless and mighty name. Amen. So guys, that wraps up today's show. Thanks again to Takara for being a part of the show. You have just listened to Virtue with Vision, the podcast with me, Mary Lee Vance. You have just listened to the #1 podcast that empowers, inspires, and motivates your walk with Christ. That's Virtue with Vision, the podcast. Walk into this week winning in virtue. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. Virtue with Vision is available on all major platforms. That's right, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and many more. Subscribe so you can check out all of my past episodes. And always remember, you deserve God's best because you are God's best. Have an awesome